Hello, friends. May Flaum here for Brother Crafts. I'm a brand ambassador, and today you are here in my studio live, and we are going to be creating with the Brother Scan and Cut, specifically the SDX230Di, also known as a Disney Scan and Cut because it has over 180 designs built in right here to get your creativity started. And today we are going to be focusing on adding some magic to your family vacations with some really simple crafts that we can do with built-in designs here in the machine. So what you're going to need for a project like this, depending on what you're going to use, I'm going to be creating some little photo books. You will need some vinyl and some transfer material for that, as well as a mat for your scan and cut. I'm also going to show you how to take a similar design and do it onto a t-shirt with heat transfer vinyl. And for that, we'll also need an iron so that we can heat transfer it onto the t-shirt. So really simple supply lists, super easy projects. I am so glad you are joining us. We are live streaming here on Facebook and YouTube, so be sure to hop on, say hi, let us know where you're from. We'd love to hear from you. What are you crafting? What's going on in your neck of the world? And also be sure to save this or repost this to your page if you want to save it for future viewing and inspiration so that you can come back, watch the video later. Let's go ahead and jump in. Let's get started with our first project here. So one of the things I really like to do is I like to create a photo book for trips, whether it's for friends, for myself. Sometimes I like to do a full scrapbook, but sometimes, you know what, just a little book that we can just slide our photographs into and just have it on the shelf and reminisce about favorite memories is a lot of fun. And our scan and cut machine, which I'll show you now, has lots of things that we can do. Now here is one that I have gotten started. You can see Mickey Mouse is here, and it looks a little complicated with all of these vinyl layers, but I promise you it's super easy. We're going to put Minnie Mouse on this one here right now. The first thing we do is you do just kind of want to measure this. This is about 4 inches high, and that's just important for sizing. And to get going, we're going to pull up our patterns. We're going to go into Disney. As I mentioned, there's all kinds of different patterns in here. These specific Disney patterns exclusive to this machine are right in here. And we're going to be working here with Mickey Mouse and Friends. So it is divided by characters, makes it really easy to look at. And this is the pattern that I showed you already on my book here. Isn't he cute? That's the pattern I showed you already. We're going to work right now with Minnie Mouse for our other book. And what this pulls up, this is the height and width of the entire design. So if we create this as is, it's going to be 7.33 inches tall and 5.14 inches wide. I like to adjust one or the other. So I already know the height I want to be about a little less than 3 3/4, somewhere close to 3.5 inches. So I don't need to be exact. That'll be just fine. So about 3.5 by about 2.5 is the size I'm going to create. I'm going to click OK. And it'll pull this screen up, and this is showing you all of the individual pieces here that we have to work with. So we have her bow, we have the polka dots, her hands, her face, and if you click one of them, it will show you which piece you're looking at. Her eyes, there's her bow, there's the other part of the bow, and there's the background. So one at a time, I'm going to pick these pieces, and I'm going to say, okay. And I'm going to just kind of start moving them by color. So that's the background. And if we click add, it will come right back here. This is her hand. So I know those are going to be white. So I'm going to pull those in and pull those somewhere else. And I just have to keep track of what parts I'm pulling out. Now I know that her little eyes I want to be white as well. I try to work by color in doing this part. We can put these very, very close together. But I try to work by color, and I believe that we want that to be white as well, because we can see there's the pink is going to have the little holes in it, so the white's going to be behind. Okay. And by pulling these all together, that means these are all going to cut out of white vinyl at once, and then we will put them all together. So that's those pieces. Now we need the pink for her bow. And we could change this to red if you would prefer red or purple. Maybe it's a Halloween theme. You want to go Halloween Minnie Mouse with orange and purple, you could do that. And then there's her face. So once I have the different pieces, what I'm going to do is just momentarily adjust my machine here to show you. I have my scan and cut mat, and I'm just going to remove the dust cover here. Now the mat I am working on is a low tack mat. So it's the low tack mat. However, either a standard or a low tack mat does work with vinyl. That's up to you. I'm going to be cutting a little smaller piece of vinyl here. I just don't need a really large piece of pink. And then I'm just referring back to my screen. We have her face, which, oh, not the red one. My goodness. There we have her face color that I'll put over in that area. And then we have the black for the background. And then we need white, which I have here. And all of these vinyls, they are what I call it sticker vinyl. Some people call it craft vinyl. Essentially, it's a sheet of sticker. And so you have your sheet of sticker here. And then the transfer paper, or the material that's basically keeping the sticky from attaching itself to everything, right? So we have our vinyl here. And for the sticker vinyl, we always put it with the sticker side up. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces, and what we're going to do now is to place it into the machine. And I'm going to go ahead and move the machine back so that you can see all of this good stuff. There we go. I'm going to push this button right here to load my mat. And as you can see, it's going to pull it in, double check that everything is good, and then set itself. Now I'm going to push this middle button, the scan and cut. It's right there in the name. We have got scanning abilities here. And by pushing this, all it's going to do is it's going to scan the mat. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to see where the materials are and what that looks like, and if the materials are placed in such a way that works well for us. If they're not, we can either move the material or we can move the design. As you can see, it shows up beautifully here. And I can see that this needs to move more centered. This, we are good right where we're at. This is we're good. And this one, I think we could move a little bit here to get away from the edges. Just make a few little adjustments here. Once you are satisfied with everything, it's that easy. As far as figuring out how to create, you just need to pick your materials, your size, place your items, and because these are all the same thickness, the same material, we are able to cut them all out at once and out of scraps. We don't need full sheets. Our final step here, we've selected cut. Here in the tools, we need to go to half cut and turn this on. Now, this is a really exciting feature that this machine has. It's actually kind of 2 parts. This machine features an auto blade, which means, and we'll see this happen in a moment, that the machine is going to detect the depth of the material and automatically cut. So we have half cut on, we have cut, we're going to start, and you'll see it here. It's going to do its little thing. See, it's checking, it's giving itself a check. Now it's going to the material, and it's checking, and it's cutting. Now, by selecting half cut, what that means is it's telling the machine, I have a material that I would like to cut the material, but I do not want to cut the backing paper or, the other part of it. So the auto blade is determining how to best cut the vinyl without cutting the transfer material. And as you'll see in under 2 minutes, this is going to really be a great feature for working with vinyl, for doing what we are trying to do here with our scan and cut. It's really going to make this very easy. And it's one of my favorite features because it makes weeding, it makes creating with this all the easier. And there's a lot of different ways, of course, that we can use that, but it makes sticker making or working with vinyl such a breeze. I have never loved using it more than what I am with this half cut and auto blade feature. It's just really phenomenal. So as you can hear, you can still hear me. It's really nice and quiet to work with. And for a project like this or for designs like these are things that we can play with as far as how we would like to use them. What materials can they be cut out of? You can cut them out of any material you would like. The restrictions that I generally give, I say, if you're trying to cut the material with regular scissors at the size you're trying to cut it out of, would it be physically possible? So for example, if I had a very loose weave cotton fabric, could I cut little teeny tiny intricate designs? Well, no, it would just become threads at that point. It would just pull apart at that point. So I think about that as a restriction, but otherwise, as far as materials, we can cut all kinds of things from plastics to papers to vinyls, fabrics. I mean, you name it, as long as it's 3 millimeters or less and it's able to be cut by the machine, you're good to go. Speaking of good to go, so are we. We're going to push on the machine. We're going to release the mat. You'll see here it says select the next part. So if we were creating this really large and we needed each piece to be on its own mat, we would be able to click select the next part, and it brings us right back here to pick out whatever we would like to pick out. But since we are done, we are just ejecting our mat. And I'm going to scoot our scan and cut out of the way just a little bit here. And then we're going to remove our pieces from the mat. And once we have removed them from the mat, we are ready to weed and to create. So for some of these pieces like this one, I take a look and I can see very clearly where the design is. I like to use my Brother pick tool. It just really helps things move along. And there's what the half cut means. We were able to remove the vinyl we don't want to craft with and leave all the rest alone. Now I'm going to trim around because this is such a big piece compared to what we have here. And I'm going to do the same thing again. And this time, though, I'm going to use my little pick tool because we have our little polka dots that we need to pop out here. We definitely want Minnie to have her polka dot hair bow. And I do find the pick tool really can help. If you're having trouble, another thing that I hear a lot is someone is having trouble trying to find the lines of where to weed the vinyl. Change your lighting or change your angle, because sometimes I have really great lighting in here right now. It's midday as we're recording this. And by the way, if you have questions, if you have anything you would like to ask us, we are live in the comments. So we are watching the comments and replying. So feel free to ask any questions at all in the comments, whether you're watching this now or in a week or whenever, whatever it is that you're watching this. We will, and Brother is really great about replying to the comments as well. So we will be watching that. And you can see, ta-da, easy peasy. It really does make such a difference. And this is another one where I can save quite a bit of material. And as you saw with the creating, you could see that, you know, we can scan this material in and it makes it so nice and easy. And when we're done with this part, I'm even going to show you more because we can customize this pattern to be for your family with the date of the vacation. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we can do. It's really just limited by how much, you know, what would you like to do? Your own imagination is kind of the limit here. So for a design like this, some layered designs work really well to start with the top layer and put them all together before you transfer them. However, that would mean that I need to figure out where the different things go in such a way that for me, this particular design works better to start at the bottom and build it up on the project itself. So I have our photo book here. This is just a little photo book with little page protectors for our pictures on the inside. And I'm going to start by deciding where I want Minnie Mouse to be. And I'd like her to be on this side. Then I'm going to get some transfer material. Brother sells this. It works fantastic. It's essentially, think of it as a sticker mover. So we're going to put it on the vinyl. I'm going to use my little scraper tool here. I'm going to press it down. So all this is going to do is lift our sticker off of the backing paper and make it so that we can transfer it. And just keep your fingers under here so that it does not touch, because this is your sticker, right? Yeah, that is your sticker. It is very sticky, and you're just going to want to decide where you'd like it, place it, and press. And this ensures that your sticker goes down beautifully, that there's no wrinkles, that there's no rough spots, that things aren't folding up on itself, that just everything goes really nicely. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the bow. It's up to you. There's different ways to do this particular pattern as far as the order. I like to do the bow here. And remember, again, we're going to want to take our time and keep it up so that we're not setting it down too prematurely, because once it sticks, well, you can guess, it really sticks. There's our bow, and then I'll do our face next. Again, we're just pressing in here. I like to do the pressing with the tool because I find that it just gets a better, more even attachment here. And we need her face to go right in here. So I'm going to put her face in. However, look at how where the hands go is going to matter with the face. So if this happens and you're thinking, well, oh no, I wish I had done a different part. Set this aside, get a different piece of transfer material, and use that for your other piece. So remember, if you haven't committed yet and you figure out that you wish you had a different way that you had done something, go ahead and see if you can work it out. Like in this example, I can look at her hands here and do this just a little differently, because I definitely want to be happy with my results. Okay, so I'm pressing her hands down. I just think that's going to help me decide precisely where I want that face, because you can see at the bottom here where her face goes, it does kind of go into the little grooves there with the hands. We want it to go well with there. Now, another tip for you, if you are doing this and you are not happy with the results, there's a couple, you always have different options. You can look at adding embellishments or doing other things like that. I would also remind you that if it's a minor thing, like perhaps you just slightly offset something, or there's just something that's just the tiniest bit off, I would really recommend you just take a breath and give yourself a break. I mean, we are crafters here. We are creating, and it is handmade. So it's not expected for it to be absolutely perfect. You just want to have fun with it and enjoy. And we have our eyes here. Here's our little eyeballs. And Minnie Mouse is looking up. And we're going to set those right in there. So you can see how easy that is, right? Nice and easy, nice and simple. And the design was already made for us, so we can really get a lot out of these designs. And as I mentioned before, we can do these in different materials as well, just depending on what we're trying to create. And again, remember the size. Thanks to the vinyl and how smooth it is to cut, you can see how tiny and fine these lines are. I mean, it's just so cute. However, now we have our Mickey and our Minnie little photo albums, but that's not quite custom enough for me. So let me show you very quickly here how we are going to add that customization in a different way. There are several ways we can use that scanner feature here in the machine. I'm going to add another way here by showing you how we can scan something in and turn it into a cut file. So this says Smith Family Vacation. It's just printed onto paper. There are several ways you can get your fonts into a scan and cut. I'm just going to let this load and then pull our machine back to show you. Okay, there we go. So we have several different ways that we can utilize scanning. And the one I'm going to show you today, if we hit this scan button, we have direct cut, which would mean I have something here on the map that I want the machine to cut. Scan to cut data means I would like to create a cut file. Okay, so we have scan to cut data. We're going to let this scan on in. And it only takes a moment. What's going to happen here is it will scan in, and then it will look at the data, and then think of it as we need to answer a few questions. Okay, so we need to answer a couple of questions about what's going on here and how this is working. It's just finishing up recognizing here. So one of them is if we want just the outsides, or how do we want to see this as a cut file? And we're going to want to see both inside and outside. And I'm going to move this paper just to show you here. I would want the inside here of the letters to cut out. And so that's why I said inside and outside. And then we're going to adjust down. And this just gets rid of like any paper edges or any kind of noise, as I put it, that the machine is picking up. And we're going to say preview. And when I preview this, it looks good. It looks like we've got everybody. It looks like the little dot there didn't quite pick up. So let's see if we adjust the color, if it will pick it up. And what I usually tell people is there's a few little adjustments we can make here when trying to save something. You have a couple of options. If it's not working, you could rescan it. You could also use the font converter tool that's free that you can put in your computer to actually use fonts directly to make cut files instead of using the scanning function. You could also, and I think it's adorable, you could let a child's handwriting be what we do with this. All right, let's see. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm getting those little dots picked up, but you know what? I'm okay with that. So I'm going to put us back to the middle, because what will happen as you go super light or super dark is there's some other little details that it can get extra sensitive to that you may or may not want it to be. So we're re-recognizing this. And for today, I'm good with leaving the dots off because I have a vision. I have an idea of what I would actually rather do. And I was thinking about doing instead of the little eye dots anyway. So we're going to go forward with that. And in this case, if you're wondering, okay, well, how, what if I'm not okay with it, what I want to do it? Again, we could rescan, we could go and we could utilize a font converter tool. We could also create or purchase an SVG file in whatever font and whatever words we wanted. Another thing that works really well, we're going to hit home here. So we've saved this. Another thing that works really well is to make whatever you're creating, make it bigger. So instead of making it small, make it even larger. And by making it larger, it's easier for things to pick up, and then we can always shrink it down. So we're going into the machine where I saved it, and there it is. And we can see Smith Family Vacation. Very cute. Okay. Okay, so if we want to leave it just as it is, which I think we do, because, yeah, I like it where it is. But if we want to edit the size, we would go here and click this to pick up all the little bits. Object Edit. This will unify so that it becomes one. And then it's a little wide, so I'm just going to shrink it a little bit. Okay. And then let's see if the vinyl piece I had in mind to cut this out is going to work by pressing this to, again, scan. Now, if it's not going to work, there's options. There's always options. We can get a larger piece of material. We can shrink our words down. Let that go through. All right, let's see how close we are. Oh, it's so close, but you can see the word vacation is not going to fit. So what I will do in this event, I don't want it any smaller. I'm just going to pull out my vinyl and we're just going to pick another one. And you know what? I always would rather try to get more out of my scraps of material, try to get a little more out of the material that I can versus not trying to use the scraps. So we're going to select cut and you're going to see that half cut is already on because once you've turned on that half cut, it's just going to stay there for you. And this is going to cut out. I mentioned before, but I'll say it again, as far as a mat, when I'm working with this kind of sticker vinyl, I like to either work with a used standard mat that's cut a few things, or I like to use a newer low tack mat. And the reason is, you know, on the back of the sticker vinyl is going to be just a little bit prone to sticking, right? So it's going to just a little bit want to stick to whatever we're putting it on. So I like to not give it a very, very sticky brand new standard mat. Now, if we're talking about heat transfer vinyl, which we'll talk about shortly here in just a moment, if we're talking about heat transfer vinyl, I don't find that it matters at all because you're putting a very slick surface against the mat. So number one, it's very forgiving. It will stick to mats that are not very sticky. But if the mat is very sticky, it is a slick piece of plastic essentially, so it will pull right off whatever it is you are working onto. Now, as far as the process goes, if we wanted whatever font we had, whatever words we had, whatever that might be, it's always going to be the same process. We are going to cut out our words. We're going to, I'm just going to trim this out because we've got a full sheet. We're going to pick our words. We're going to weed our words. And then we are going to apply, I say words, but whatever it might be. All right, let's move that mat here. It's always going to be a very, very similar process, which makes it very easy to remember how to create things. And it's also really delightful. There's a lot of different projects that we could potentially be making with, and look how easy that is. I love it. Lots and lots of potential projects that we could be making with this. Now, this is trying to stick on me. So when that happens, what I will do is I will trim. If I'm finding one part of a design was wanting to be sticky, I will try to trim in there, because what I don't want to do is create any kind of issue there where it gets difficult. I want everything to come off really, really nicely. So let's see how we're doing over on this end. That is the one thing you might find if you're new to vinyl. I would actually recommend, you see how I'm just doing all of the letters kind of all at once there? If you're new to vinyl, I would recommend actually pulling apart each and every letter, so that instead of trying to get them all to come across at once, that you're doing each word individually. So, and I'm sorry, I think I just said letter, but I meant word. I think that it's a little easier to do word. Now you might notice that F maybe looks a little funny or like it got moved. I'll show you how to fix that. That's not a problem. Now this little guy, I can see some things got stuck and some vinyl got stuck to itself. That's okay. It is fairly forgiving as long as you're patient and as long as you're gentle with the material. So in this case, I can see that some things got a little stuck to each other. One of the things I can do here is to trim my vinyl. You've seen me a couple of times pull the scissors in here and just kind of trim the vinyl to free the parts that are going well and separate them from the parts that are being a little tricky. And this is very, very intentional on my part because it's going to make it easier to work with. Like this is all, that is all vinyl that is not getting used right here. So if I get rid of that, then it's out of my way. Okay. And this is something that I know can very commonly happen, especially if you're new to vinyl, where, maybe you got something stuck. And even if you're not new, things happen. So I'm going to try to let that kind of settle down here. Let's see. You can see it'll settle back down. Then I can come and finish off with the other side. There we go. So we have our Smith family vacation. Now I'm just going to kind of slide my little tool here to remove any of the centers of letters that maybe need to come out. And again, you can see how finely this is cutting. So you really can get very detailed results with designs with vinyl. That's one of the reasons it's really popular, is that we can get very, very detailed and really very beautiful results. Now, for our F that is obviously a little askew, you have two options. You can try to move it here, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a different approach. We are going to place it separately. So we've got our album out. Here comes our words. We're going to start at the top, and it's all the same process. So no matter what you're creating, if you're working with your vinyl, it's always the same process. You're going to want to pick it up, find a spot that you want to put it, and press it down. And if it doesn't come off, if you see, oh, well, gee, it's sticking to my, or it's not transferring, then just take your little tool. Or if you don't have this tool, what else can you use? You could use a credit card, an old hotel room key, something along those lines. Okay, and then try again. And it should, and if it doesn't, just try one more time. And as far as what can you move this onto, you can move your sticker vinyl. We can work on, this is a smooth surface, but you can work on paper, you can work on wood, you can work on canvas. Essentially, as long as it will stick, you can work on that. So I know I need to leave room for the letter F. So I'm just coming down a little ways and putting Emily. There we go, Emily. There's our letter F. So see, I can put the letter F where I would like it separately. So see, it wasn't a problem that it didn't quite stick, that it didn't quite work. We can adjust. Now, my piece for vacation is not big enough, so I'm going to need to cut myself a bigger piece. This is how it comes from Brother on the Roll. We just need a bigger. The word vacation is a little longer than I thought it would be. That's no problem. And you might have noticed I have been reusing this. You can absolutely use and reuse transfer material basically as long as it is sticky. So to try to keep it sticky, I try to always work with really clean hands. I try to keep it free from the dogs and any dog hair and that kind of thing. And now this is a little long, so this is actually going to go down at the bottom, and it's going to overlap our Minnie Mouse just a little bit. I also make sure to, let's see. I'm going to put it like this so that's not overlapping Minnie Mouse. Okay. So press that there. There we go. I also make sure to keep it on the sheet here so that it can be saved for future. Now you might notice we've got kind of a gap here. That's one more little trick I'm going to show you before we make our quick little t-shirt. I'm going to put the year in here. And if you watched all this and you're thinking, well, that's fun and all, but I don't know, I think that's too much work for me just to get that result. Here you go. Here in the machine, along with all those built-in Disney patterns, right here where the letters are, we have different fonts with letters and numbers. And you can pick any one of them. Let's see, in this case, 2022. Okay. And I always just leave it like this. Then I will look at, okay, what size do I want this? I think I want these about 1 inch high, so I will change their height. Okay. And then again, always our same process. So once you've done this a couple of times, my friends, you will remember how to do it because it's always going to be the same process. We're going to load our mat. We're going to put our material on the mat and so on and so forth. It's always going to be a very similar process. So I'm going to put you right about there. I'm going to scan the mat just to make sure I'm not way off here in my positioning. Remember clicking that scan to make sure that your material is where you think it is and that everything is going to fit or work correctly. It only takes that quick moment and it can save you a lot of heartache if you were wrong. It's easier to fix it. Yep, perfect. And I'm just going to say, okay. And I'm just double checking here. Let's see, 1 inch. Yeah, 1 inch will be good. We're going to cut. Half cut is already selected. The auto blade is automatically doing its job. Those are going to cut out. So could I do the same here for my Mickey? Could I add smaller, but could I add words here and other things here? Absolutely. For this one, I just want to add the year in here. And I think that's going to be really fun. This allows you, just as a reminder, you can mix and match. We can do built-in designs with custom designs. We can change the colors. We can change the sizes. There's so many options for us creatively to make this into whatever it needs to be to work best for you. Just remember that. What would you like? What would work well for you and for your project? Whatever that is, that's what we're going to do. So we've got our cut here, and it should, let's see, there it is. Sometimes finding the first part on the edge can be a little tricky. Like, where did you go? I know you're in here somewhere. There we go. Here, well, now remember, if you're doing this, what are our 2 things that we've learned today? Number 1, don't be afraid to go ahead and just trim a piece of vinyl off if, as you're going, it makes it easier for you to work. So that's thing number 1. Number 2, I can try to sit here and just do this with my fingers alone. I want to show you here. So I'll get that one done. And it is doable, but if you have your pick tool, what the pick tool can do is get in there and hold the little tiny pieces for you and just kind of help along different things, especially if they're being difficult or if you need to pick out the middle of something and you don't want to scratch it. You can really get in there in the middle of a little spot and lift up and remove. Okay. I'm so excited about this. This is going to make a lovely little gift here. We've got all of our little pieces that we need. Now we've got our numbers. And you've seen me pretty much picking things up all together. But as a reminder, you could pick things up one at a time if you don't love the spacing that you did with your scan and cut. Here we go with this. And I just remembered we do have one tiny other thing we're going to do here with this. Remember we talked about the letter I's. So we'll do that and move on to our simple, easy t-shirt. All right. So this we could leave alone, but I am going to do a little something for those eyes very easily. And this is this is my personal favorite, I think, built-in design. So I've got some material here. We won't need very much. And if you're thinking, well, this is a lot of steps or this is a lot of parts, I would like to just do one of those parts. Remember that you always can. With these live videos, the other ambassadors and I were always trying to just inspire you and give you some ideas, give you some thoughts on things you can do. This, we're going to go home and watch this. Go into Mickey Mouse. And there's a bunch of them that would work for this, but I'm going to use, there we go, this guy right here. And I'm going to make it fairly small just to start. And just select the Mickey. So remember that with these patterns, if you just want part of a pattern, You can go in and pick part, and I can also go into object edit here. I'm going to make this as tiny as it'll let me. About 1/4 inch sounds good. And I'm going to make 3 of them. 1, 2, yes, 3 of them. And then the second or third works. So there we go. I'm just looking at my material to make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay. We're going to have little Mickey heads for our eyes to be even cuter than little dots. Isn't that fun? And it's funny because when I was trying to get my little eyes to see if the little dots for the eyes would work, I thought, why do I want to do that when we have a Mickey head? We can make Mickey be a part of our little photo album. Just so cute. Oh, and it's that fast too. Okay. Now, as far as vacation and customizing, this is just the beginning. So this is our photo album for after the trip. But what about when you're on the trip? You can do so many different things. You could do something like, and I'm just going to trim around this so I don't have as much vinyl here to weed. You could do things like matching t-shirts or coordinating t-shirts. Depending on your family, they might like coordinating t-shirts better. So we can do that. We can make a journal or a traveler's notebook cover. We can do all kinds of really fun things, my friends. We can do backpack decorations, luggage tags, basically you name it, accessories. So we could do earrings, we can do headbands, we can do ears, you name it. Look how cute. Oh my gosh, I just love this one. We can do all kinds of really cute, fun stuff to customize. And I've even done t-shirts where I would just put a couple little Mickeys and maybe glue a couple little rhinestones. And then I've got something super cute, super custom, all my own, that I had some fun crafting at home, counting down to the trip. We can do countdown calendars. We can do, just if you can dream it, we can do it, right? We could do some decorations on a wallet or on a purse. I already mentioned backpack. I already mentioned luggage tag. You think about all the things that you might want to have custom, or maybe after your favorite character, or for something you're doing while on the vacation. Maybe you're there to run a race, or it's a family reunion. You can add, our family reunion or this special event for whatever it is onto there. But that's the idea for you. Now let me show you a really super easy. So that was a lot of different steps, right? We did a lot of different cutting. We did a lot of different things. Now we're going to do a single quick cut file onto heat transfer vinyl. And the heat transfer vinyl, so the super shiny pretty side, that's actually, you're looking at a transfer material. What the other side that's usually not as shiny or not as interesting, that's the glue. So think of that as the glue. That is where the heat transfer is going to take place. So, and that's not quite right. Remember, when we're putting our material on our mat, we want it to be nice and straight, but we definitely don't want, and sometimes this happens, but we don't want the material to go over the front edge. We don't want the material to be up in here, because then there's no adhesive to hold it down, and it can kind of flap up and cause, not problems, I don't want to say, but just difficulties in getting the machine to cut, because it's reading the flap up, or they can also get in the way of all the little marks that the machine reads. All right, here we go. Super quick and easy. I'm just going to check. So you want your iron nice and hot, but you don't want it to be no steam, just nice hot iron. So I just made sure, since we've been chatting here for quite a while, I'm having such a good time with you guys, I just wanted to make sure the iron is turning itself back on. I can feel it heating back up. So we're going to go in, and you can pick any pattern at all. There are so many to choose from. I'm going to go in here, and I am going to pick, do I want Minnie? Do I want Mickey? There's all of these fun different patterns that we can pick. And usually you can tell, so like these ones are going to be single, right? Because you can kind of tell, or these ones are going to be single layer. Versus these ones, you can see it's 3 different colors, so it's obviously going to be different layers. So I'm going to do mini here. And the area I want is about 3 inches wide, so we're going to fix the width. It can be a little more. That should be fine. Okay. And there's only one thing we need to do when we are working with heat transfer vinyl. We have to go into Edit, Object Edit, and this button right here in the middle is going to flip it. Because we are cutting on our material here, the back side, that means we want the front side to be upside down. So I always think of it as we need to flip it so that it's backwards so that it will cut correctly. And let me tell you, that is a lesson I have taught myself too many times. Hopefully I remember it someday. I don't know. We'll see if I ever can keep that in straight in my head. The half cut is already on. Yes, for the heat transfer vinyl, we do want to half cut. And yes, while we are doing vinyl designs here, again, we could be doing these out of different materials. What it's really going to depend on for you is what are you trying to make? What are we trying to do? What are we trying to create? And then what material is going to work best for that based on the material. So that gives us a start, though. You can see how many different features we're using. And we're just, today, we've been scratching the surface. We have a lot of features and projects and things that we can do and create. So if you have thoughts, if you have ideas, if you have, you know what, I would love to see this tutorial, or how do you do this? Remember, leave comments here. We always love to hear from you, but it really does help us see what can we do. Okay. All right. There we go. Putting my mat aside here. So if we wanted to make more of these, I mentioned about, let's see if we can adjust that there. If we want to make more of these, if we want to do like a whole family worth, we can go back here and we can cut more. We can also go into Edit, add more of them. So remember, if you're making a batch for the whole family, you could make more. You could cut more there, go through the whole process. However, we're not going to make multiple here today. We're just going to move that out of the way so I can slide over. So what we have here, I just have a gray cotton t-shirt. This is just a felt pad that I use for doing iron on. I keep it here so that here in the studio while we're live, we can do little iron-ons and do different things without a whole ironing board. And then I need to figure out where I cut. There it is. I need to figure out where the heck my design is. Remember what I told you earlier. Sometimes you need to kind of look at the light to see where it is. And I find, especially with the heat transfer vinyl, the pick tool really, really helps because it will grab the corner. And with the heat transfer vinyl, I find you do want to do some tests with whatever brand and whatever particular finish that you have. You do want to kind of test that out and be aware. Some of them are more sensitive. We're going to set this to the side just a moment while we, and see how I have to kind of move it around there just so I can see where are the pieces. Now, one other tip here, if you can't figure out, or you think you see something, but you're not sure, remember you can always go back on your machine. Always can go back on your machine and look at where things are. The other thing you can do on, refer to the actual pattern. The other thing you can do very gently, you don't want to cause this to tear or to make a fold, but you can very gently bend and get to where you can pick up the very edge of something. And I find that this will work sometimes if, I don't know, maybe my eyes are tired, maybe my lighting's not the best, but if I'm really trying to see, okay, where are the different pieces? Where am I missing? What am I missing here? a lot of times that can help. And sometimes it's not even lighting. Sometimes it's the color or the style of your material. Some materials are just easier to weed. Some materials are just easier to see than others. So you just kind of use that. And of course, and I will always say this, if you've tuned into live shows in the past, I'll always tell you this, take your time. Do not be in a hurry. Do not try to make this go as fast as possible. Take the time it needs to take, because you know what? It's gonna take the time it needs. So don't try to go wild. Now, what I've got here, here's our heat transfer piece. So you can see the transfer material. This is iron safe, whatever comes on the heat transfer vinyl. But you can see we can skip the step of moving this on to transfer material because it's already on there. And you can see why we had to be backwards, because now our Minnie Mouse, see, if we had cut the opposite way, the Minnie would read this way. It would be on the back. By it being here, now it's on the correct side. So we can place it and heat press it. Now, before we heat press this, I do need to grab a piece of fabric. It could be any fabric. Sometimes I'll grab another t-shirt or something else that I happen to have. And the transfer material is sticky, which is to our benefit. It helps it stay right there where it needs to be. And we could do these. You could do multiple colors. Remember, we could do this more complex, like we have here, where there's lots of colors and a more complex pattern. So we can do that. Or we can simply press and make a single color, single material design, like what you see here. And let's see, we need to press a little more. So remember, we want this to heat transfer. So ideally, we're pressing firmly for the time needed. And then once we have pressed and done all of our stuff, I typically, if I'm not live, I like to let this cool fully. If I let this cool fully and then I go to lift, I can see if it's lifting up anywhere, if there's any spots that need a little more time. Since we're live, I'm not going to make you sit here for the couple of minutes that would take. Look how cute. We've got our Minnie Mouse right there. And if you did take this off and you went, oh, like I can see right here, we've got a spot that didn't adhere. Do not stress. You would just place this back down, place your protective, and that just keeps things from burning. That just keeps the heat from being too much. And go ahead and repress if you need to. And if you're not sure, you can always do a double check. And there we go. Isn't that fun? So much fun. We have so many variations that we can do depending on your family group and the ages and who's going and who's doing what with the vacation. We have so many options. And remember that Brother does live shows, has recorded videos on YouTube, on Facebook. You can find them on the website, on the blog, and there's always new ideas coming from myself as well as my fellow ambassadors. We're always trying to inspire you and share with you all kinds of different creative ideas. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, my name is May Flaum. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have just had the best time getting some family magical vacation craft ideas together for you. I can't wait to see what you create. Remember to tag Brother and share on social media. What are you making? What are you creating? We always love to see it. We always love to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful day.